All right, then one thing you said we wanted to talk about and then just forgot about. Looked at the cap-friendly filter for comparable contracts to Hartman's to see if the people who said Guerin overpaid were right. They were very much not. Most of those guys suck. Let's talk about the Ryan Hartman contract that had not yet been completed upon our last recording.
Zero complaints, and I can't figure out how anyone ended up complaining about it. I mean, like,
dude, we shared
about something, but
I shared from all of our accounts the story that Joe Smith did on Hartman's wedding and stuff. Dude, people were in there like just fucking barely like, hey, congrats on getting married, but fuck you, give the money back. Like, okay, like really?
You can't even really come back and say anything back to those people because it's just like, well, okay, you're at this point first line center, guy that your franchise winger loves to play with, one of the only guys that's played really well in the playoffs every year.
Seriously,
you're gonna get upset about him signing for what, 3 years was it? 3 years, $4 million.
Right. I'm sorry. Compared to other contracts out there, and even compared to the contracts just got signed, I would argue that all things considered, he's probably the most valuable of the three.
Yeah. And again, like, even if he's not your first line center, what he does, he adds value, whatever. Like, he's not just a guy that you need to produce. Like, he's going to be able to be valuable in every spot in the lineup, whether that's like with Kaprizov on that top line, or he can be a very good middle six forward that can produce offense as well. So, like, I don't understand how anyone came back with that. Like, anyone that said that shit, like, had those fucking tweets like drafted already. No matter what the contract was gonna be, they're like, get out of the way, let the kids play. Like, it didn't really matter what fucking that contract ended up being. It was just like, obviously another older player. Which, like, okay, well, you've just lost me there. There's like, okay, anyone, like, the complaints that I did see, I was like, there's no arguing this because it's just not close to accurate. Like, it's not even like an arguable point.
Sidney Crosby sucks because he's Russian. Like,
yeah.
Where do I start?
I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't even know how to jump on this one, if I'm being honest. But yeah, no,
defensemen are never good. Like, wait, huh?
Like, it doesn't prevent any young player from playing. It's not an overpay in terms of like the dollars. It's a 3-year term. There's just nothing to come back on. Like, it's just whatever. People will have to be angry about something. So there you go. It's good for him. I told you before, I was like very nervous about like after those they're like specifically the Foligno one. I was nervous about what the Hartman contract would come in at in terms of like term and dollars, more so with like term. And I was like, oh, what? This is what I was worried about. Okay, perfect.
See, you gotta read Cosgrove's comment in the feed. I won't throw it on here because Isha won't be happy, but just made me chuckle. Yeah, I don't know. It's wild to me that people are upset. Like, again, I understand in general being upset that all three were extended. Like, if we just want to like look at that, and plus, like we talked last week, right? Like Freddie Gaudreau on top of it. So like, I understand that altogether, but any of these contracts individually, the only one that I can really see issue with is Foligno. And again, like, everyone's talking about the youth movement that may or may not come. Like, we don't know where these guys are going to be at in their development paths once the big money comes off from Parise and Suter. And I think that, like, overpay maybe, but that's a guy that you need there to maintain the culture as you have all these young kids coming in. Like, that's the guy you want them to be learning from, right?
Right, exactly.
And I know that's why Guerin did it, but it's still like, I understand from people, if you want to say he made too much or got an extra year or two or whatever, I won't argue.
Yeah, it's just, I've said this before, people just like need to be mad. I don't know if it's just like being mad and disagreeing with the GM makes people feel like they're like putting really good points out into the world, and like make like, it's just like makes people feel better. Maybe, I don't know, because I'm like, none of these things at no point have been like, oh, that's a major fuck up. Like, that's gonna kill you. Oh well, yeah, well. We don't have to.